Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Kev for our Lions Raw match reactions, fans forum. It's been an eventful weekend. Great result, but then a couple of issues off the pitch and a couple of issues on the pitch that have caused a little bit of controversy. So I'm sure we'll get into that. Plus, all of your comments, all of your questions, all of your kind of views on what's happened across the game. So, yeah, get involved in the show. This is your show. This is the fans forum. So, get involved. First of all, though, Kev, it's been a little while since we've been on a show. I'm trying to remember, when was it last? Were you on the Newcastle reaction? Feels like ages ago.
I don't think I was in the Newcastle reaction. No, I wasn't. I don't remember that one. I don't know. Probably did like a positive podcast before the Newcastle reaction, and then obviously Newcastle happened. So yeah, mate, it's like a bit like the old days, kind of. When we had maybe 150 subscribers.
Yeah. No, it's
Look at us now.
Exactly. 2,300. I think it's 2,322 at last count. So well on the way to 3K, as I keep saying. The growth been tremendous. So everyone who's watching, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Our viewer count isn't actually working at the moment. So I'm sure we've got loads watching, but continue to hit that like button, guys. Just so we can we make sure that we're getting as many people on board as possible. Comments coming in. Credo joining us. Feeling better now? Yes. Big up Villa Park Pod. Thank you very much, mate. Duncan in the house. Now I need to. Oh, obviously Chelsea and Arsenal are playing, aren't they? Duncan was second in the fantasy football league. Kev, you were 21st last week as well, so you had a great week last week. I'm not sure how this week's going, but Duncan was second in the Villa Park Pod league, and he's also added his membership for 3 months now, which is fantastic. So thank you, Duncan, for your support there. If anyone else wants to become a member and wants to donate to the channel, just hit the $ at the bottom and follow the instructions. Rachel, hi, Rachel. Great to have you on. Jamjack in the house. Duran, so good they named him twice. Absolutely. We'll be getting into all of that. Mark, evening, Mark. Great to have you in, mate. And Deco, great to have you on board, mate. Thank you for joining. So, Kev, Sunday, our season started. And after the debacle against Newcastle, I don't think we could have asked, and we were talking about this in the preview. If you want a home game, well, the next game after Newcastle away is you want a home game, and then you kind of really want, Everton is certainly one of the teams that you want to face, isn't it? Really.
I was saying to anyone that would listen to me talk about the Villa after, obviously, what happened at Newcastle, that if I could pick a single game to follow that up with, I wouldn't even take like Luton at home, Sheffield United at home, Burnley at home. Like, I honestly think that Everton at home will be easier than Hibernian at home. Genuinely, because Everton.
Oh yeah, Hibs will have a lot to play for,
Dog poo. It's still close to the watershed, so I didn't know who's watching the background.
Yeah.
Everton are rubbish. I mean, every time I watched Everton at Villa Park the last few years, I've come away from every game thinking, and this is obviously going around a lot now, that circling the plug hole comment, but thinking they've got absolutely nothing really to compete in the Premier League. I mean, the win last year was, I think we made, because obviously it was under Gerrard. It says a lot that we beat a team at home under Gerrard, because obviously we weren't great under Gerrard last season, particularly before he left. But even that then was a very unconvincing win, because obviously they, were really pushing towards the end. But for probably 80 minutes, they just had no quality. And Arna was like the best player I had. This time around, I was slightly worried that Calvert-Lewin was fit, because I think he's a decent player. And obviously they've got, Onana, and they've obviously got Iwobi, I think, but that's probably about it. And it was the same again. It could have been a cricket score, really. And we took our foot off the gas, didn't we, for most of the second half. Everton are as bad as a team as I've seen down Villa Park for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think they're bang in trouble this season.
Yeah, I actually fully agree with you. I was kind of like, a little bit wary before the game about maybe their kind of height off set pieces. Maybe a couple of the players like Calvert-Lewin coming back. Onana in that midfield, Decore who likes to get forward. I was thinking, they have got one or two players that could cause a bit of problem, or would they kind of shut us out with Tarkowski at the back? Sorry, but they were so bad, just in the fact that I don't think they had any sort of plan, which was quite strange for a Sean Dyche team. They had no real plan, had no real structure, and it was really strange to see them. Like, if a team is going to press, they would you expect them to press and to pressurize in numbers. One will go and then they'll all go, and they'll really try and pen you in, or they'll stay off and they'll try and pick up interceptions and try and block passing lanes and stuff. They weren't doing either. They were basically pressing for a little bit. We'd make a couple of passes, and then they would just step off, and then Pau Torres would just be able to dribble the ball forwards. It was so bizarre, like what they were doing. I just think, like you said, they're in. If it's an indication, if that game is an indication of what they're going to be like this season, I am really worried for them.
I said to the people near me, and bear in mind, like, I didn't know that stat about us winning eight home games in a row and not conceding from open play in any of those wins. Us conceded 2 goals from set pieces. I didn't know that stat. I know we've been decent at home lately under Emery. I say lately in terms of the last few league games we played. But, being a Villa fan, you never think any game's a banker because we've struggled at home against all sorts of teams. And yet I said to the people around me the game on Saturday about sort of 10 to 2, sorry, I was like, forget that games don't kick off at 3 o'clock anymore. I was like, I have absolutely no worries about this game, and that's on the back of us just getting tonked by Newcastle. I had supreme confidence. I like Sean Dyche. I think he comes across as a decent fella. I've heard him on a couple of podcasts. I think he's got good standards. I think he's really done well for himself. Someone who has had to go the hard way, because obviously he didn't have the most high-profile playing career, Chesterfield, Watford, etc. But he's done a really, really good job. Particularly Burnley to get this gig. He did a really good job last season. He got a bit of spirit in the team, and particularly at home they were good. But the players just aren't good enough. And this is the team that spent a lot of money over the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of money, and breached FFP, they reckon, and obviously the stuff going on with that. But you look at their squad and their team. I mean, not a single player in their team would get in our team. Not a single player on their bench would or bench or team would get in our team. You'd probably take Calvert-Lewin if he was fully fit, and Iwobi, and maybe Decore. But that might be about it for your squad. That's it. And this is Everton, who, we nearly went down 3-4 years ago, and Everton would have been a team that would have been looking to kick on, but it's just been poor. They're just not good enough. And you play against a team like Villa with the form we're in, and they must have known straight away that they weren't going to win. It was chance after chance after chance, wasn't it?
Well, before we kind of get into the goals and people's comments and stuff, like, I actually thought that, like, coming away from it, I thought, would that be a game that Dyche would have thought, you know what, we're probably not going to win this game, like, and obviously it turned out a 4-0 defeat, which is terrible. But, like, if they go into Wolves, who they've got next game, and think, oh, you know what, we'll push for 3 points against Wolves and 3 points from 3 games. That kind of points per game ratio, it doesn't look too bad. And I wonder if will be teams that will go away from home, particularly at, like, say, a Villa, a Brighton, and obviously your top teams, and just think, do you know what, we're not really going to be able to get anything from this game.
Isn't it mad to even consider that we might be one of those teams?
And I don't want to come across as disrespectful. I don't want to say, like, we're this supreme team or anything like that. But it just gave me that air. Like, if it would have stayed at 1-0 after 75 minutes, they might have thought, you know what, we can give it a go for the last 15. But because it was 2-0 after half an hour, the way that they played that game was as if, like, we've lost it. There's no chance of us winning, getting anything out of this game.
And even 2-0 is a dangerous scoreline, because you get one back, momentum. It's like you guaranteed almost. You at least believe you're going to get an equaliser. I felt untroubled the whole game, and I don't think it's disrespectful, because obviously our home form is absolutely brilliant. But to think that someone might view that game like we might view Man City away is unbelievable. Listen, there's got to be 3 teams that go down, but I mean, they got Wolves next game. If there's ever been a game you put on some cash for a 0-0 draw, I mean, neither of them can score. Wolves look really good going forward up until the point of putting the ball in the net. And I do think the chances they've created in the first 2 games, they will at some point get some over the line. But this comes back to, we might talk about Watkins obviously on this pod. Look at Everton's options up top, and Calvert-Lewin's never fit, etc. Looks like they're going to get Che Adams. I think Che Adams is a decent player, but he's just been relegated with Southampton. They're bringing in a striker who was up front for a relegated team. I think Dan Juma's got a bit, but has Dan Juma got enough to get you 10, 15 goals? They are struggling. But I know what you mean. The thing that was surprising about the Dyche team was they absolutely like a fight. Offensive howlers. Yeah. I mean, it really helped us out because we didn't need to get out of second gear, really, did we? We were at it first half. We liked attacking the north stand, obviously. We like it second half. We like attacking the whole first half because we've obviously been quite successful about doing that. And I don't know whether we won or lost the toss, but again,
I think it's a ploy now. I think we do it. I think Emery likes it. Makes sense. You know, it makes sense. Get off to a good start.
Absolutely does. And then once that happens, I think against Villa now, they would have seen what happened against Brentford. They would have seen what happened against Man United, seen what happened against Newcastle. All these teams we've had fast starts against, and they probably would have thought that crikey, we're in for it today.
Yeah, 100%, mate. A few comments coming in. Dunk said, thanks for all the content, for all the great content, lads. Thank you for your support, mate. You know, it really does mean a lot to us. Villa are Everton's and Brighton's bogey team for sure. Yeah, well, we've got enough bogey teams, so it's about time we were someone else's bogey team. Deontay in the house. Hello, everyone. Hello to you. Great to have you on board. Rachel said, I worry for Everton. They really do feel like Villa did when we were relegated. 100%. Yeah. Jason says, Everton were very poor, but take nothing away from Villa. I totally agree. Mr. Sensible, hi all. Hello, mate. Great to have you in. And your comment there, we'll come to that later on. Aidan says, great reaction. Everton were dross, but we did exactly what was needed. On a side note, how are we going to deal with the homegrown player requirements for Europe if we send on our academy players? Great question. We will come to that later. Deco, they have no threat, no cutting edge. Dyche is decent, but they've given him an impossible job. No money to spend, likely to get a points deduction given they've made a loss of 400 million. Yeah, that's really one to look out for, and what the FFP ruling is for them in, I think it's October. Adamski in the house. Hi all. How are you doing? Up the Villa. Dunk was a great performance Sunday. Diaby is true class. I'll raise a main concern here. Yes, well, we're going to come to Watkins. We're definitely going to come to Watkins, potentially fluffing chances. And we've called it on this. We have been consistent with that. And Dunk says Ings would have buried 75% of them easy. These injuries are killing us at the moment, says Mr. Sensible. Yep. Dale says, hi all, great win, and the season starts now. Not sure what Stephen says. Put a fiver on. He put a fiver on Gary's 4-0 and got 145 quid. Excellent. Excellent. We don't, gambling, make sure you're over 18 and all that jazz.
Rich, do you know what my lad said? He went, it's going to be 4-0, Dad. And I used to sometimes have a quid on it or a couple of quid on it. Just the only time, I ever get involved with gambling with my kids. And I thought, it's not going to be 4-0. I didn't put any money on it, and it was 4-0. He was devastated at the end. He thought he would have won, probably would have been 10, 11 to 1, wouldn't it, though? But still,
Yeah, really nice, though. Yeah,
always cover it with a quid.
Yeah. Dale, Everton doing would have liked Dan Juma for us. Looks a decent player in a very poor team. Yeah, he must have thought, what am I doing here? Talk about Ings there. He doesn't press. Yeah, I think we will get into that conversation on Watkins. Geordie Villain says, give it a couple of years and we'll be seen as everyone's bogey team. That's hopefully.
Maybe not.
Okay, not cool. Let's talk about the game then. Let's get into the goals. Because loads of talking points we get into, so we will come to those, I promise. But yeah, let's talk on the game. And obviously, good start. I've got off to a good start, and obviously I feel like a player who obviously has come under a lot of criticism. Mr. Leon Bailey. I feel like that first 30 seconds of the game really gave us an indication of how his game was going to go. And I think that is Leon Bailey in a nutshell. It's very, very much like what El Ghazi used to be like. Leon Bailey, first 10 seconds, gets the ball, takes it round one, takes it round another, and then passes it to, like, sets us off on an attack. And Luca Dean has a deflected shot wide. Him beating those couple of players in that moment set the tone for how he was going to perform in that game, and that kind of got us going. And then obviously for that first goal, you know, he'd had a couple of little sighters and maybe knocked the ball back and laid it off a couple of times, but then when he really went to the byline, it cuts it back perfectly for McGinn, and he puts it in the back of the net with real confidence.
Yeah, you've got to give credit where credit's due. I have been Leon Bailey's biggest critic, and I still am. I think he has one good game in 7 or 8, and but he does have a track record of doing much, much, much better at Villa Park than he does away. I think he's been absolutely, just anonymous away from home. But at Villa Park, have most of the ball. It seems like we do get a bit out. We obviously got, 5 goals last season? And credit to him, I think it's arguably his best half of football in a Villa shirt, other than maybe when he came on for that cameo against, ironically, Everton, and got obviously the goal and the assist for Digne to flick it in. Because, look, that ability we saw on all those YouTube videos, he's clearly still there. I just think the problem for Bailey is he's wildly inconsistent. And when you're going into each game, and a lot of Villa fans feel the same now, and you just cannot rely on him. And I'm not talking rely as in, like, we know wingers are streaky, but, even get a 6 or 7 out of 10 performance out of him, it'll either be a 2 or 3 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10. And there's just a lot more 2 or 3 out of 10s. There's one point when he fell over, he tackled himself, didn't he? Like, he had no one near him.
Yeah. It's almost like his legs sometimes run too fast for the ball.
Yeah.
But like he did. But, I guess sometimes that looks worse than, like, for instance, there was a couple of times in the first 10, 15 minutes where he was actually sharper than Diaby. And, like, he was laying passes in or going for the 1-2 or the give and go, and Diaby just wasn't quick enough to read it. Now we might turn around and say, "Oh, Bailey, what you doing?" But, like, it was actually Diaby's fault. But, like, if the shoe was on the other foot, we'd be like, "Oh, unlucky Musa, like, blah, do it next time or whatever." But with Bailey, we'd be like, "What you doing? You're rubbish." Da, 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 da.
I think that's a really fair point. I feel like with Bailey, with me, and probably a lot of other Villa fans watching, when someone's sat over your computer and you're trying to type anything, you could just be trying to type your own name and you panic and you're spelling everything wrong. I feel like that's what it's like when I'm watching Bailey. Because anytime he does anything, I'm criticising every single turn or move or touch that he makes. Credit where credit's due, because I thought there was some good link-up play with Diaby once they got into the game. I thought he'd overrun it for the McGinn goal, but obviously he did really well and got into it. So, yeah, I just think we've got to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing. Like Mr. Sensible said, he needs to find that consistency, and that's exactly what you said, mate. Rachel said if Bailey's first touch is good, he will be good that game. Being at home seems to help. And that's the thing, do we just play him at home? Because I feel like away from home, you've got a different challenge. You're not going to have the ball as much. And then what you're asking for is, you're asking for Bailey to do something maybe with 50% less touches of the ball. So obviously that first half, he absolutely smashed it, and he was getting a lot of the ball. And so if he has 5 dribbles and 3 of them come off and 2 of them don't work, because he's getting the ball so much, you don't remember it so much. But when we're away from home and we don't get much of the ball, if he has, like, he might get 5 dribbles in a game, and if he messes up on 4 of them and one of them he puts a decent cross in, but Ollie Watkins misses it, we go, "Oh, well, Bailey was crap." But, like, naturally you're going to get the ball less. Now, some of that is down to him, but some of it is potentially down to that supply. Like, are we dictating that game enough? Are the tactics there to suit how he's playing, and that's the point. Like, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be more consistent, but I'm just saying, like, it stands to reason that he's going to have a better game at home purely on the basis that we're more on the front foot and we're going to have the ball more.
Yeah, but that's like, if you put me in a game at home at Villa Park, I'd play better than I would away because I get more of the ball and have more time on the ball. Like, I think there's a reality that if I play five-a-side and I've got better players on my team, then I'm going to play better. At the level we're looking to get to as a club, he doesn't retain the ball well enough. I don't think his end product is good enough. There are moments of quality within that, and I think we take it at the moment. But I do think, if it wasn't for the injuries, would even be getting the opportunities he's getting now. We take what we can get because we know that despite him having the flaws that he's got, he's still effective. When you look at the likes of Diaby, McGinn around him, Watkins wasn't his day, but it was still way more than Everton could cope with him. And Ashley Young couldn't cope with Bailey. Generally, really. And so, I don't want to be too negative on it because I think obviously we've had a fantastic performance. Normal service resumed under Unai Emery after what happened
Absolutely.
But I'm still massively jury's out on Leon, unfortunately. I just think I don't think we'll ever see the consistency of performances that will get fans off his back.
Yeah, and I think that's par for the course with a winger, a potential match winner like that. And I'm sure Diaby will face that criticism. Obviously, Watkins faces that criticism. When you're at that end of the pitch, you're expected to deliver chances and goals. And if you're not delivering chances and goals, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to get criticised. So I don't think he's immune to that. I just think he will. That's just what he's got. Cool. I'll go through some comments. Kev has just got some business to attend to. So we've got loads here, and I have starred some. So let's go through. Pickford's save from Diaby was class. Yeah, it was a fantastic move as well. And what a goal it would have been had it gone in, and Diaby, connected with it perfectly. Just great reaction save from Pickford. Got some transfer rumours which we'll come to in a bit. Soupy Mark says, we ain't the bogey team, we're who you send to kill the bogey teams. Yeah, brilliant. Ian said Bailey made a great fist of the assist, and the way he assaulted the box for his goal was first class. Yeah, it was great. Obviously seeing him score that third goal for Villa and his first of the season, really sort of pouncing on the mistake and finishing it really well through Pickford's legs. And hopefully, I was going to say to Kev there, hopefully he can really sort of be inspired by that performance and use it as a catalyst to move forward, because we've got Burnley, we've got Hibs, he might play on Wednesday, we've got Burnley on Sunday. Can he produce away from home? Because he's got a real opportunity there with a couple of teams where I'm sure we will have more of the ball or certainly carry a threat. That he can really have an effect on. Adamski said, is Unai being tricky, put McGinn on the left, sort of, and Diaby central, because you think it would be the other way around? I think to be honest, like when I watched Match of the Day, they were swapping quite a bit, and they were coming inside into those like little inside right, inside left areas, and trying to pick up the ball in the little half spaces, which was really good. I mean, they both got different qualities. If Diaby's in that area, he's obviously going to try and get the ball on the half turn and really attack with pace. And I think he's maybe putting him on the side where Leon Bailey is, because there's going to be a nice link up there with them. And then obviously McGinn has got that strength, and if players try and engage with McGinn, he's going to turn them with his big arse, and he's going to get his body in the way, and he's going to attack. And come back to you, Kev. Like we were laughing in the stands, like when McGinn is doing that running style where his head's down, he's just going his arms are going in that haymaker style. You just can't stop him.
It is. It's bizarre. I mean, I'll go back to the analogy of like five-a-side football. Every now and then you've got a player. Players you think they look like they've never played football in their life, but they're unbelievable. Like, for me, it's like probably playing against some fireman who's like, look, he's like 54 and 28 stone, but his touch is immaculate and he constantly spins you. And it's like, wow, where's this come from? Every time I watch him again, I feel the same. He doesn't look like a footballer, really. He's no offense to him. He's obviously in decent physical shape, but not traditional. And he doesn't look like he'd have great pace. It'll be great skill, but he's unbelievably effective. some of the skills he was putting in at the weekend was just some of his turns.
It was just a joy to watch him at times. Absolute joy to watch him. And if you talk about if you talk about a captain's performance as well, like I think he is more vocal. I think he's getting more vocal, but just that example of a performance, like I think it was Conza that said, like whenever they see Bailey, not Bailey, I've got Bailey on there. Whenever they see McGinn like pressing at that speed and running with the ball with that speed, it almost like inspires the rest of the team, and that's exactly what he does.
Leading from the front, and I think he's got more chance to do that now with the position he's playing. Playing that number 6 role, it's the dirty work. You haven't got much opportunity. So, bonjour, Deco. Comment ça va? Comment ça va?
I saw your little chuckle when you saw that comment. To be honest,
very good.
There you go, French student vibes. Well, let's go. Duncan's put a comment in there. Comments coming in flying in thick and fast. So I'm trying to do my best to keep up with them. But Dunk says, good to see Luiz taking the pens now rather than Watkins. Obviously, Watkins won the penalty after as Steve said, Pickford threw a haymaker and missed. But yeah, I mean, it was a lovely taken penalty and gets Luiz off the mark as well.
Never in doubt for me as well. And this is the thing, like, you know, Watkins, his record on penalties is to the point now where I think he looks confident when he takes it. He steps up. You're not sure what's going to happen. And I didn't doubt Luiz for one bit, for one moment. Like, he stepped up there. I mean, I think it looked pretty obvious where he was putting it as well. I don't think he was particularly discreet about his angle of his body, but he was just right in the side netting. And you went saving that. And I think we've called for it for a long time, whether it was going to be someone who can strike the ball well, whether that would be a Digne, a McGinn. Obviously, it's between McGinn and Luiz apparently now in terms of whoever fancies it who's on the pitch. A Jacob Ramsey, someone like that. But Watkins, who can clearly strike a ball well, but his record in these sort of crunch moments, these clutch moments, you know, it might be a game we're playing somewhere where it ends up being a 0-0 or you lose 1-0 where, you know, a goal scored from the penalty spot, you've got to, in the Premier League, take the majority of those opportunities. And Luiz is just coolness personified, isn't he?
Yeah. And again, real steady performance. Him and Kamara looked like they were kind of back to that relationship. They didn't really have any pressure put on them like Newcastle would, but yeah, it was nice to see them back to kind of that steadiness, that controlling games, and that midfield looked real quality and looked to have real weapons in it. You know, you've got Kamara there, kind of calm in the tackle, and I know I've criticised him a little bit as well. And then you've got Luiz, the playmaker, and you've got McGinn, you know, that driving force, and you've got Diaby with that extra X factor, which is great. Let's go on to Watkins. You did mention him there about kind of not necessarily being involved, not being that man in the clutch moments. And we were talking on the way down to the game, like even in that Newcastle game when he does so well to beat Botman and it's 3-1 at the time, and he gets in to have a shot, and the shot is kind of straight at Nick Pope. Like, and Nick Pope makes a mistake by palming it out to Cash, and Cash should score, obviously, but you know, Watkins should be putting that into the bottom corner. And then you look at the couple of chances that he had on Sunday, you know, particularly that second half one where he's one-on-one with Pickford and he doesn't even get it on target. You know, we keep saying it, but we must try and get an option to kind of challenge Watkins, or, you know, or get, I don't know, like Noah's there's put him saying is the weak link of the team. Like, is it as kind of far as that? Would you say it's as drastic as that he's now kind of the weak link of the team? Because he does have so many other qualities that he brings to our side. And I know we'll come on to like the score of the final goal later. It was great for him, but there's a noticeable difference in terms of the presence that we have up front at the moment if Watkins isn't on the pitch. But is he our weak link?
I wouldn't go that far yet. I think he's got a lot of credit in the bank for what he did since Emery came on board. You know, if you look at his goals to games ratio, he's probably as good as anybody other than Haaland, probably, for what he did. You know, was it 11 or 12 goals he scored? Maybe 13 goals since November. So you've got to give him the credit there. And anyone can have an off day. I mean, the whole Villa team had an off day the week before at Newcastle. Maybe he's had 2 off days. Maybe he's one of these little ones isn't sleeping very well. Who knows? But I think with Watkins, it's kind of like that point I made earlier about Bailey, like I'm scrutinising everything. If Watkins has a few more bad games, then every touch is being watched.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I felt his touch was off, though. I don't think his link-up play was particularly good. I don't think his options in terms of scoring goals, I think he looked like he was really going to get one. But he's clearly the best striker we've got. I know, Sam might not agree with terms of Archer, but, he's clearly the best, most effective Premier League striker we've got, and I'm still confident he'll score goals. The question comes now for Villa fans, and Villa is a club when, if we really do want to push on to that next level, and, I want to talk about that tonight, about the opportunity we've got and what we can do. But is Watkins the guy? Well, if you look around other top teams, who their strikers are, so let's look at the teams we are competing against. Haaland, fine, levels above, but it's Haaland and it's Alvarez, and that's it. That's all they've got up top, isn't it? Really, you've got Nketiah and Jesus. Jesus has had his moments. Let's be clear, but
he's a very streaky player, such as Watkins.
Yeah, Man United. Would you be taking? Well, I don't know much about this Højlund, and Rashford doesn't really like playing up top, and Martial's not
another streaky player.
Yeah, you've then got Liverpool. Okay, Mo Salah, but he's not a traditional front man. But he's the. Or you got Nunez, who again has had massive critique. Tottenham have got the main man's gone now, haven't they? Hasn't he? I mean, Brighton, we've got Welbeck and Ferguson. I mean, really, there's not that many out-and-out strikers. Tony's banned. Like Newcastle have got Isak and Wilson. I think they've probably got the best strike force in the Premier League. Newcastle, or when he's fit, I think Mbuemo and obviously Tony is as good. So we have to look at that and go, Watkins actually, with the goals he scores in the Premier League, is certainly effective. But we all want that superstar striker that's going to be get more goals and do more. But Watkins is the thing he's got, I think, which is what keeps him around really well. He's got an all-round game. He can hold the ball up. He can link play. He can score goals. He's got decent pace. He's strong. He's an all-round centre forward. Bad day at the office. But I don't know, if Archer goes, are we going to bring in another striker? Or is it going to be Duran and Watkins all season?
Yeah, well, they have said that if another striker comes in off forward option comes in, then it would be on the basis of Archer going. Obviously, Zaniolo can play across the front areas, so he could be an option. But yeah, I agree. You've summed it up pretty well there. I think we can all be a little bit too kind of perfectionist over certain players. Like you said, it was a kind of a bad day at the office, and ultimately, had he put a chance away, we'd have probably turned around and said, it wasn't his best performance, but he scored a goal and that's what he's there to do, sort of thing. Whereas he didn't score, and it's like, well, I had a bad game. It's like he was still kind of a threat. And I think, to be fair to him, I think his hold-up play and his link-up play was probably better in the second half than it was in the first half. I think the first half belonged to Bailey, and the second half was, we obviously took our foot off the gas, but I think Watkins did provide some good moments and some good link-up. And yeah, we can be a little bit kind of guilty of looking at other teams, not necessarily looking too much at other teams and thinking, well, you know what, like our kind of stock is pretty good. Like, who else are we going to get? Now, I know there's other strikers abroad and all that kind of stuff. Vlahovic that Duncan really likes, and I'm sure we'd all love a player like that. But have we got the money to operate in that field? Can we really not do any more manoeuvring with FFP? It's a difficult one, isn't it? So sometimes it's like, are we better the devil, almost with a Watkins that we know what we're going to get out of him?
Well, we might be getting in 5 or 6 million for Bidace and Keenan Davis. So put that towards it, can't we?
There you go. Yeah. Few comments on it. Dunk said, not the striker type to take us permanently into the top 6. Adamski, Watkins played well. He just didn't finish anything off. Deco, Watkins is just a streaky player. He does a lot of work, and he scored 11 in 12 or something last year. Yeah, maybe he just needs that one goal to get him going. Adamski, Watkins should play as a winger or behind the striker in a creative role. Maybe. I think we talked about that wide position, but I think he likes it through the middle. Dunk said we don't need a pressing striker anymore. The squad quality has moved beyond that. If Duran steps up, then great. Maybe so. Martin, hello. I've landed back home. What a win. Good Irish omen in the ground. I think that's 9 out of 9 for you. Mr. Sensible is being very sensible, as his name suggests. A striker better than Watkins will cost big bucks. Steve says once he gets one, he will get more. He's a confident player. And this is one comment that I was going to make here, actually, with Ian said, I think with our new signings, there will be less pressure on Watkins to produce goals, so I'm not worried. Now, that is something that, the eras of 25, obviously we've got Haaland, who's a bit of a freak, Kane, again, consistent goal scorer, but everybody else, if they manage to get 20 goals in a season, that's brilliant, isn't it? Whereas, your most forward players are expected to do a lot of work with the team, and the goals are meant to be spread out. And obviously, we scored 4 goals on Sunday, 4 different scorers. So, hopefully, we're going to get more goals from a McGinn. Hopefully, Diaby is going to contribute. Bailey will contribute. Luiz will contribite. Hopefully, some of the defenders will contribute a little bit more. It's all about the team now, isn't it? Not just one player.
Well, it absolutely is. And if you look at the other teams as well, so because obviously we're going to have more chances and we're a better team and we're higher up in the league and we'll have more possession, then we'll score more goals as a team. We're going to have to if we want to kick on in the league. And therefore, it will be shared around more. And we've made that point around. I mean, this is exactly the conversation point we have around our midfielders. Looking at a Buendia, obviously prior, that nasty injury. But what are Buendia, McGinn, Luiz, Tielemans, Bailey, what are they going to contribute in terms of goal? Is it going to be like the top teams? What are Grealish didn't have an amazing goal scoring record, but, City have always been crazy, haven't they, with De Bruyne and Silva and Gundogan. But Arsenal, with an Odegaard, it's those type of players who are stepping up from midfield to score goals. So therefore, there is less reliance then. Again, we made this point about strikers 2 or 3 minutes ago, but actually, a lot of teams aren't playing with almost a direct front man. Look at someone like a Brighton. They're not always playing with a direct sense of, all their goals come from a Welbeck or a Ferguson. It's, Solly March, it's Mitoma, it's, Enciso. There's all sorts of people getting the goals. And if we replace what Watkins should get with, I don't know, say McGinn gets 7 or 8, Luiz gets 7 or 8, Diaby gets himself 13 or 14. If Watkins does the same, you get a few goals from fullbacks, then you can start to really kick on. But that being said, if you've got a good striker with more chances, then you have a super season because your good striker scores themselves 20 or 25 goals. 3 or 4 of your midfielders get 10, 15 goals plus, and then you're absolutely cooking, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. So I think we had a comment here about the striker who scored the 4th goal. Adamski said, Duran gave me Benteke vibes jumping onto that chance. Reminded me of Christian Benteke's debut versus Swansea. Feels like a brand new signing. And obviously, it happens with strikers. Ollie Watkins goes off on 75 minutes and his replacement, Jhon Duran, pounces on a mistake from Ashley Young and Michael Keane, and on 76 minutes he's getting his first goal at Villa Park, and what a moment for the lad.
Penny for Watkins' thoughts. It's the equivalent of being binned off by your missus and then she's going out with Zac Efron a minute later because he's just come off the pitch. Within a minute, the replacement, who's never scored for Villa, he's just watched the main striker fluff his lines a couple of times and give away possession, comes on, gets gifted a great assist by Ashley Young, and Michael Keane does a half-hearted tackle, and he's in. He tries his best to pass it back to Pickford, and luckily Pickford doesn't come off his line. And then all of a sudden, it's like I felt like I was so excited for him running through on goal.
Yeah.
I was literally like as if it was my own son. I was like, "Come on, lad, let's do it."
It was a great moment in a game that was petering out, and that was a fantastic moment.
He's such a likable character as well, because if you see him even before kickoff, he's always playing like the mascots on the side. It always takes a bit of time to do a little bit of passing with them. I don't really see anyone else ever doing that really. Clearly, you know, he's a nice fella, but he's 19 years old. He's in a new country. He doesn't speak the language that properly. Doing his interview in English at the end, you know, fair play to him. He's a really likable character. He's clearly got bags of potential, although he's very raw, as we saw from that first touch. But, I mean, that first goal, I mean, he's got the physical profile. He's got the pace. He had a couple of flashy moments last season where he nearly scored. Who's to say he couldn't be a little bit of a wild card and get himself, you know, I don't know, 8 to 10 goals this season? Who's to say?
Well, you know, Emery said he needs to sharpen up. That'll be a good moment for him scoring that goal, but he needs to continue with his improvement and continue with his consistency. And I think the fitness part of it will hopefully help, because he was blowing even after, you know, that brief kind of 20-minute spell he had. I know the 9 minutes of injury time didn't help, but you know, he's obviously going to get that confidence up and hopefully be trusted more and more to play. But yeah, it was a fantastic moment for him and really topped off a great afternoon for Villa, and you know, great to get back to winning ways and kick start the season. I do have to mention Ken there with a super sticker, I think, for £2. Thank you very much, mate, for your contribution.
Cheers,
that is
Ken.
much appreciated. Few comments in. Chris says, weirdly, I don't think we were that much better than the Newcastle match. We didn't have to be fair, did we? Adamski said, we've still got Zaniolo to come in to do that creative role. He might be what we're looking for with that ruthlessness. We've got that in Diaby as well. Fantastic. Duncan said Zaniolo is quality. Hopefully we can keep him fit. Diaby, 12 to 15 goals this year. He's electric. Yeah, you can tell he's just got that quality. Jordi Villan, we didn't need to be better versus Everton than we were versus Newcastle, but we also weren't bad against Newcastle until the third goal went in and then we gave up. Yeah, you do feel like moments went against us. I mean, I'm sure Everton might turn around and say that as well, though. Duncan said Diaby would make Man City's first 11. I agree. And they've agreed terms with Doku. So we got Diaby, they get Doku. Michael's in the house. Hello all. Literally just got through the door, so we'll watch on catch up later. Great win, and let's push forward up the Villa. 100%. And Mr. Sensible said Diaby is better than Doku. What have we got? John says score 4 and everyone wants another striker. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? We're always perfectionists. What else we got? Ian said, I remember when everyone was talking about how prolific Brentford were with Tony and his goal haul in the Championship, but Brentford had scored the same amount of goals the year before. It was just spread out. Interesting stuff. Agent Ashley, what an assist, says Mark. Yeah, it did seem it was probably a bit of a difficult situation for Ashley Young, like leaving in the summer and then playing against us so soon.
Yeah,
you know, it must have been a weird situation for him, and then knowing that how good Villa were, you know, and what we do with our system, because he would have known exactly what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a weird one. Yeah, Young's a Villa legend. What's Credo saying? Laughing at Kev Zac Efron. Get on the telly.
You're welcome, mate. Anytime. I'm here all week.
Deco was hungry like the wolf. Yeah, definitely. Dunk said Duran a super sub this season, but may start in Europe. So yeah, just a kind of an all round good afternoon, to be honest, and a perfect game, like we said before. One obviously blot on the copybook was, and Michael said there, any news on Coutinho? And he was just looking like he was getting going, wasn't he? It was some lovely touches, some little nutmegs, link up play with a couple of the players, and then he pulls his, I don't know if it's his hamstring, if it's popped his knee. We're not quite sure. Emery tried to play it down after the game, but it's always the same. He just seems to be getting himself going, and then he gets another injury.
Emery playing it down was like reminded me of like some dodgy car salesman trying to say, nah, it's definitely the mileage is correct. The mileage is correct. It's a really good runner. Because he's got a couple of like Qatari clubs and Saudi clubs waiting in the wings, and they're like going, "Is you sure he's okay?" Yeah, and he's like, half his knee ligaments hanging off. He's just done his hamstring for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Look, run up and down the line.
Yeah,
walk around the pitch.
Give him a cortisone injection just to get him through it. it was the ideal scenario for him to come into a game. We're clearly like with the game sewn up. You've got 20 or 30. Well, with injury time, you've probably got about an hour left at the end of the game now. So, like, you've got plenty of time against the team that are really lambs to the slaughter, if you want them to be, to do what you're good at, which is, you know, be that artist on the ball, create stuff. You're right, there was a nutmeg, there was a little flick over someone's head. And I actually think, I haven't watched it back, but it was quite a bad challenge on him. Like, it was a late tackle. Like, he'd gone past someone and they basically like just took him out or clipped him. And I think it was the manner of that. I mean, people might have seen it on telly. I was at the game, maybe seen it a bit more clearly. But by all accounts, they think it's weeks rather than months. That's what's been said by Emery. So, and that might be the reason why.
Villa 1982 says about 2 to 3 weeks out. So,
I'd be delighted if he stays around, because I think it could be really effective. I mean, it would have been great to see him get a start away in Hibernia. Imagine that. Like, looking at our team now, and you're starting Duran, Tielemans, Coutinho. I did think when they all came on, I thought, crikey, Everton must be thinking, oh my goodness me, we've got these absolute quality players coming off from the side of the pitch. You know, you've got obviously Diego Carlos came on as well. He's another like £30 million Europa League winning defender. So you've got all these players coming on, and they're already like 2 or 3-0 down. They must be thinking this is just unfair. So Coutinho would have been great to see him just to do his stuff. I think with a bit of confidence. I think if he gets a goal or two, an assist, I think there's still magic in those boots. He looks fit and sharp, and he's not that old. I mean, he's about as old as the guy that we're looking apparently to sign from Sevilla. So if you think about it, you know, I know like some players can get to 30, 31 with a bit like an Eden Hazard or a Bale, whatever, and that's them done. But I still think there's a bit of life in him.
There's a lot in there if you can keep injury free and keep a little bit more consistency. But yeah, I just hope it's not long. Rachel says there, we don't know yet if it's hamstring tear. Could be from 2 weeks to 14 weeks. So, you know, fingers crossed it's 2 weeks. Really Random is in the house. Evening, folks. Great result. Great to have you in, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, Carlos was good too, says Adamski. Him and Konsa are going to be fighting to start. It was just a nice game for people to come into. You know, Everton really gave us a lot of time, and I wouldn't read too much into that game in isolation. It was just nice to get back to winning ways. And I know before we go into kind of some more of the sort of questions that I've starred from everyone in the chat, you wanted to touch on just the opportunity that you've kind of seen that, you know, honestly, it's very early days in the season. We want to temper everyone with that, but you kind of feel like we have got a real opportunity to, you know, to break into that stronghold of the top 6 or top even higher than that.
Yeah, I was thinking it's just watching football over the last couple of weeks. I mean, admittedly, I didn't watch too much of Match of the Day the week before, but I did catch up on you know, on the goals and some of the highlights of the games. We know City are poles apart, right, of everyone else, and we know obviously Arsenal did well last season. They're probably, you know, decently equipped to push for top 4. Newcastle the same, but outside of that, I think it's game on. Watching Man United, they're terrible. I mean, how many Man United's team would get in our first team? Serious question. Who'd get in our first team from their team? Tell me someone who would. Who'd start? Definitely guaranteed 100%. I can't think of anyone, I would say. Tottenham, who'd start? Who'd start in the Tottenham team and our team? Son probably start for Bailey.
Son and Maddison, maybe.
Maddison, yeah, probably. But, you know, if you, I mean, see what happens with Zaniolo. But maybe a couple. We're talking teams that have been Champions League final like 3-4 years ago, whatever. I mean, the one for me is Chelsea. I mean, I don't think I'd want Mudryk on my team in 5-a-side.
No, he. They keep saying that. Oh, he's a good player. He just needs this. He just needs that. But I've not seen anything from him. I've not seen anything from that Enzo guy. Like,
Mudryk had a shot that went behind him. Did you see it towards the end of the game? Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, maybe he's not match fit, but you know, that was
Caicedo. I can understand.
Right on social media, no refunds. That was
yeah.
Caicedo, Fernandez, Mudryk, and who's the other one? I can't remember. It's someone else midfield. Like, it's 350 million.
Lavia.
I mean, that Nonu Madueke looks all right. Looks as good as El Ghazi did for us.
He's an England under-21 international.
Yeah, I know.
He's just a young player through Chelsea. That he's not I agree. It's what they seem to be doing is really bizarre. Like they're selling players that were from their academy and replacing them with more expensive younger players.
Yeah, it is crazy. But Chelsea is another one as well, right? Spurs obviously have lost Kane, so I think as much as Ange Ball and all that, might actually work out for them pretty well. I don't think they're anywhere near the force they were. I look around it, and the only teams that really worry me are Brighton, Man City, and Newcastle. That's it. I think there'll be some tough games in the league. Of course, I think West Ham have strengthened a bit and they'll do more. But Villa, Newcastle aside, in the last, we're nearly the end of August, the last 10 months, I've been absolutely cooking under Unai. There's supreme confidence. As McGinn said in his post-match, pre-season was great. Preparation was good. I think the Mings injury mid-game really knocked the confidence, and Newcastle took advantage of that, obviously, in that game. I think we've got to be looking at this now as a real opportunity and be saying, why can't we knock on top? I predicted this, we could get fourth. But why not? Why not? I mean, Arsenal, Man City. So I didn't mention Arsenal. Arsenal, Man City, Brighton, Newcastle worry me. The rest of them, and even Brighton, they're going to have off days. They're a quality team. Newcastle last season at Villa Park, we absolutely tore them a new one. And there are going to be good days and bad days for teams, but it's not like it was 10 years ago where there was a real stranglehold on those top 6 positions. And that has to be exciting for a Villa fan, because I think if we can bring in a couple more signings, get the squad where Emery wants it to be, anything's possible for me. Anything's possible. And I just think this opportunity doesn't come around that often. And if these other teams do kick on in strength, I mean, Liverpool, I briefly mention them. Offensively, they look decent. Obviously, maybe not Nunes, but they've obviously got Diaz, they've got Gakpo, they've got Salah. But defensively, I don't think they're all that. Midfield-wise, what they got in midfield now? Liverpool, really?
McAllister, Szoboszlai. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think I'm in Michael's camp there. We must remember the season is a marathon and not a sprint. And despite our first game, nothing has been achieved yet. So look, these other teams will be saying exactly the same thing. Let's not get carried away. Easily a team could go on a run of 10 wins in a row. That could be us, but equally we could go on a bad run. So what I do think will help us is our home form, and Emery seems to have cracked the home form. And once you get the crowd on side, similar to a Newcastle situation, it's very difficult for teams to come to Villa Park and get a win. Particularly, like I say, if we get that momentum going and the way we start games, again, we were 2-0 up inside 20 minutes or 22 minutes or whatever. We've almost won the game, so that's something that's going to be massive. It's just, can we replicate, beating Tottenham away, beating Chelsea away, beating Brighton away? Can we replicate that again this season? Because that's what's going to propel us up the table.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I totally agree about not getting carried away, because Newcastle was the biggest, wake-up call to not believe in your own hype. And I think, it might well be a blessing in disguise. And clearly, we haven't seen that defence tested with that Mings. It was an ideal game for Torres to start and for Carlos to come into.
Your T-shirt's getting a lot of attention today, mate.
Absolutely. I've only been managed to squeeze back into this in the last year or so. There's a kind of bit of extra timber, so I'll take all the feedback. Anything to get the comments rolling in. So clearly, Mings is going to be a big loss. We don't know how we're going to replace Mings, Buendia, Alonso Bailey going to be out for Carlos, Coutinho, etc. But the fact we're even in this conversation to think we could even do this is we're basing that on what happened since Emery's joined and what everyone else is doing. And everyone's saying, Man United have strengthened. Mason Mount and Anna, and are they that good? Is Mount looks like he's totally lost.
I've never rated him, but that's just me.
60, 70 million. You got Man City buying players that can't get in the team, like Fat Phillips for 50 odd million. So, I know the league's a bit skewed, but I just think the opportunity is there. But you're absolutely right. We've got to continue the same vein we've been in under Emery, and that is, we know we're a bit of a fortress at Villa Park. The away form was brilliant. There wasn't it at times last season, particularly that run we went on, and that's going to be the key thing when we're under a bit of pressure away from home. How would Mount wouldn't get anywhere near my team. Don't, no, absolutely not. Bench maybe. How will we cope away from home when we're under pressure without having Mings to be that hero defender? That's going to be the real question for me. And also, obviously, the Thursday, Sunday games with the Europe.
Agreed, mate. Agreed. Well, loads of comments. Like I can't get through them all, but people talk about where they think we're going to finish. A lot of people saying 5th or above, around 70 points, which would be fantastic, and a few people mentioning kind of signings, which we'll get into. Just have a brief comment on signings. A lot of people saying that Acuna looks like he's going to be done very, very soon. 2-year deal. Obviously, Luca Dean going out to Nice on a loan with an option to buy. Philogene Bidace going to Hull along with Keenan Davis for a total of $6 million between the two. And then Dale, thinking that we could be looking at potentially. Look, he kind of feels like there is another big sign in there to be done if we can. What are your thoughts on that kind of, incoming with sort of Acuna and then the outgoings with sort of Digne, Davis and Bidace first?
I understand Digne. There's been a lot of talk on social media, particularly helped by the fact he played really well the weekend. His crossing was really good, really good. But when Moreno's fit, Digne isn't first choice left back. That's just a reality. And there's all the talk about how high his wages are, and obviously what we paid for him. So and the age he's at. And I think if you can get a decent, we're going to get a fee if he goes on loan. Maybe it's an obligation to buy the season after. He's a really good player. He's probably too good to be our backup left back. But then is Acuna too good to be our backup left back? So probably the same question. But if you were going to do that and you could bring someone in on maybe significantly cheaper wages, a cheaper fee, then it's probably a good move. Bidace is a surprise because obviously he impressed in pre-season, but again he's unproven in the Premier League. So the same sort of question for an Aaron Ramsey and an Archer, if they're not getting game time, does it make sense from an FFP perspective to get a fee for them? I'm just surprised at the fee. I would have thought in this current market with the money that players are going for, we get more than $5 million for him.
I don't. Maybe $1 million more, but he's never played a first team game. He's not representing like young international ranks.
I know, but the market's mental, isn't it?
I think $5 million is a good price.
Okay, I mean, and maybe you might feel the same about Davies for $1 million because he had injury problems, but mid-20s striker that's got proven goal scorers.
I think we probably could have got more. I don't know what his contract situation's like. I don't know if he's coming up to the end of his contract, so that might have played into it. Obviously, Ramsey's got a bit more pedigree, so that's why they're talking like the 14 million because he's in England under 21, etc., etc. Maybe Bidace could have maybe claimed a bit more Championship Young Player of the Year at Cardiff last season. He got a record in the Championship, but maybe Hull. I don't imagine that they'll be flush with money, and it's what the academy or the young players are there to do. They're there to bring revenue in, and if you total up, I mean, Ramsey hasn't been confirmed yet, has he? But if you total, say Ramsey, Davis, and Bidace, that's like just over 20 million on those three players.
And if you had 20 million for Archer, say, and then you've got your 20 million for Chuck last season, you've made 60 million quid from players that have basically come through your academy, pretty much,
with buyback clauses on the couple of those players. What have we got here? Loads of comments coming in. Adamski says Digne going has become a funny one after his best performance in the Villa shirt. I think it shows his professionalism, to be fair. Dale said, don't understand Digne going on loan to France. Nice won't pay all of his wages and a low loan fee. Well, that's the negotiation that's going through at the moment. Jordy Villan, Digne was good going forward against Everton. He really struggled with positioning for the playing out part, though. I think he's a good option. I just think I think sometimes because of that lack of pace, he's either got to get there too early or he's not getting there early enough. And I think with Pau Torres, I think he probably will work well with a Spanish style fullback, whether that's Moreno or whether that's Acuna. Rachel said, I think Digne wants Nice rather than Saudi Arabia. Chris says Dean has always been an injury waiting to happen. Don't forget. Yeah. Billy Boy said, I think it's FFP reason clubs would rather loan out than sell. And Rub says, Andinia is good versus Everton, Luton, Leeds. When it matters, he's average at best, but strange to loan him and still cover part of the salary. Duncan said, the academy is there to make money for the club with the occasional Grealish, Jacob Ramsey coming along. Exactly what I said the other day. Dale said, before pre-season, Jaden Philogene-Badace was rumoured to be 2 million. So to get 5 million is good business with a buyback clause. Don't forget. Edie said, how's Courtney Hall still on our books?
Maybe they're just seeing how the injuries go with the centre half. See if we get anyone else here.
Do you know what I saw a picture of in training? I think someone had it on there. One of the players had it on their Instagram. Caleb Chukwuemeka.
Remember Caleb Chukwuemeka? Yeah, I remember him.
He's still around the club. He's still training.
Didn't he go on loan at like Northampton and get 0 goals?
Northampton and then went on loan in Scotland and got sent back.
Probably just keeping him busy, ain't we?
Yeah. Deco said, hopefully Monchi has slipped in a few buybacks the way Kev slipped into that top.
Take it, Deco.
Looking good. Yeah, this is one question I'll come to in a second. Yeah, to just more around the good business that we're doing. But a couple of people have asked this. Steve said, how do we fill our quota of English and homegrown players for the Conference League? And I think someone else asked that as well. Aidan said, how are we going to deal with the homegrown player requirements for Europe if we're selling all of our academy players?
Well, we've seemingly got the same approach to it that the likes of like Chelsea, Man City, and Everton have got towards FFP. Like, seemingly we don't care because we're selling or getting rid of all of our players that are homegrown. So it does, on the face of it, seem a bit surprising. The only thing I can think is that maybe they're just going to have to name some of the under-21s, whatever it is, in the squad. Maybe that means that potentially, I was thinking this earlier, maybe it means potentially that some players that are more established might get left out of the squad because we don't meet the quota, which would be surprising. But I can't see a way around it. But potentially you're going to say maybe Chambers is out, but Feeney, Chambers would class, but I don't know, maybe a Carlos is out, but a Feeney is in, or something weird like that. I don't know.
Yeah. The homegrown isn't a problem, as Rachel said. It's the academy which is the problem. But you just have a reduced squad if you can't fill the quota. Yeah. So if you've only got 3 academy players, you get a squad of 24, or something like that. It's not a massive. It's not a massive thing. Dale said 4 trained at the club before their 21st birthday, and 4 trained in the country before their 21st birthday. So you'd think the other sub goalkeeper, Marshall, you'd think Archer, you'd think Ramsey, and you'd think Caden Young.
Yeah, and obviously Archer might go. So maybe
or you'd have Eric. No, you wouldn't have Eric Bonham, would you? I don't know. Don't know if he would count. But yeah, and then the homegrown isn't a problem. Yeah. So yeah, I think we'll be fine. I think we will be fine. But like I say, or Kellyman comes in, something like that.
Yeah.
Into the squad. Yeah, as Edie says there. A couple of questions and another point that you wanted to raise as well. A little bit of controversy across the weekend was around the new Terrace view and a few fans not being happy with people who paid the money to get the Terrace view, and kind of a little bit of grief, or I wouldn't say abuse because that's a bit strong, but a little bit of kind of nasty comments towards Villa fans that had purchased the upgrade to the Terrace view, and it's slightly uncalled for, I would say, Kev.
Yeah, I put a tweet out about it earlier because I saw a few videos going around, and it just wound me up because I think people are conflating the issue. And look, I might have even used like the word abuse in one of my comments back to someone. It's not nice if you're being abused. Maybe abuse is a bit of an overreaction because in this day and age, the words hate and abuse are thrown around like sweets, aren't they? But look, from what I can see, you've got people that are given an option by the club if they want to upgrade their seat to something, and they're taking that option. You're going to abuse someone because they've got a Jaguar or a Ferrari or because they've got a nicer house. Like, for me, it's reverse snobbery, if that's even a term. And it's conflating the issue between that and whether the rest of the ground should have better facilities in catering, etc., and service. I totally agree. Because where I've sat in the ground, I've always felt like it leaves a lot to be desired compared to West Ham away last season was great. And Spurs ground is meant to be brilliant. Not been there. But plenty of other clubs have got, it's just cleaner, tighter service. I think one of the Villa's issues for me, it seems, is being that they've always tried to, use maybe not the most experienced staff, but possibly giving a chance to people that maybe are, I don't know, whether they're in the local area, whether they're a bit more junior, maybe they're trying to save a bit of money on the costs. But with that comes a real lack of service. That's just an honest point. You get some absolute stars. So if you see situations when you've got a massive queue, I saw some put a point out, like he got ordered some chips and the guy was serving him one chip at a time. And it's like stuff like that. When you've got 10 minutes to kick off or 15 minutes at half time, that winds you up. So 2 separate issues for me. I'm hoping Chris Heck, I'm assuming it's going to be under his watch, can really sort out the hospitality that everyone gets at the ground. What's your experience like when you walk into that ground? Whatever part of the ground you're in, whether you're in one of the director's boxes, whether you're in the upper north stand, do you get, let's just talk about the north stand's the right state. There's mold on the ceilings. It's just unacceptable. The club needs to sort it out. I know they're going to do some work on it, but I get why people will be annoyed that they feel like there's these people then getting a better service. But it's a separate point for me around giving people grief because they've chosen to take a product the club has offered them and they're putting money into the club's coffers and saying, where were you when we were shit? Like, well, how the hell do they know where they were? Because maybe they were there 20 years before when you weren't even born, for example. So, and I know people have a few beers and they say silly things, but let's separate the issues. People want to spend a bit more money to have a nicer service at the Villa. You don't know what their background is. They might have worked hard to get to that point. They might have had it landed on a silver spoon. Who cares? They've taken that opportunity. The separate point is the service at the club from a catering facilities perspective is pretty dire and it massively needs to improve.
I agree 100%. I don't think I can add any more than that. All I can say is I was in the Holt End upper and I went down at 9 minutes. There was 9 minutes injury time so I went down just before those 9 minutes of injury time and I was still in the queue 5 minutes before the second half was to start, and I ended up going to a different queue because I hadn't moved. And and to me, like you said, it's it's young kids that maybe for an agency or whatever, given an opportunity to work, those weekend when the matches are on. And to me, it would probably be hire more of them, or do a training session before in the week, get them in 2 or 3 hours for a training session and go through, this is what you do, this is how you do it, etc., etc. Because I think, like you say, it becomes an issue when people see other people, perceiving other people to get nicer service, better service, all this kind of stuff and they're only getting that because they're paying the extra, and then people then get left behind when they've paid X amount for a season ticket, and their kind of experience of having a drink and queuing up for a drink has not only not improved but has actually got worse. And that's the problem.
You've just got to be rapid there. Some of the staff are great. I mean, I don't. For those that don't know, I worked at the Villa when I was 15, 16, selling food beyond those same bars. And the reality is that before kickoff and at halftime, you've got to move. You've got to have a bit of tempo. And I don't know whether it's a generational thing, but again, some of the staff are great. You can see the ones that are really trying. But there's so many times I've been absolutely furious that people just kind of ambling across to pick up some food. You've got throngs of people there, waiting to get served to get back out. And in the end, they're not even getting a drink at halftime sometimes. And some people need a drink because maybe they've got a medical issue or it's a hot day or whatever it might be. And I honestly think the issue is leadership. I've said it before. I've complained to the club before about this before. You need someone, maybe patrol in the area, who's cracking the whip a little bit. Or maybe they need to pay a few more people to be in those kitchens saying, right, come on. And maybe extra staff would help as well. But it all becomes part of the overall service. If you go to a nice restaurant and have a bad service, it doesn't matter how nice the food is, it annoys you.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like they've, on the Holt end in particular, I'm not too sure about the other ends of the ground, but the Holt end, they've got the Punjabi grill, lovely food. They've got a chicken place, really nice food, but it's no good if you can't eat it. If it's no good if no one's getting it, because you're served, like it's taking you 20-25 minutes to get served at half time. It's.
Yeah.
And I know in the lower Holt they've done some improvements where you go and get you put your order on the touchscreen and you go and pick it up, and maybe they need to do something like that around the full ground. But they've had the summer to kind of get this stuff sorted out, and
yeah,
if we want to be a top 4 club, this isn't good enough.
But I do totally get the annoyance. I mean, I'm with all the people that have been annoyed about it because they've put prices up. So in a cost of living crisis, and I get the club want to compete, and all this money helps in terms of revenue coming in. So that's still a lot cheaper than a lot of clubs in some parts of what we got to do. But you put prices up and service doesn't get any better. Perception then is really negative. No matter what the club can say, they got to sort it out because it just ain't good enough. And also to add to it, the ticketing situation is a bit of a joke as well. And if you add ticketing and food and catering to a situation, and then they're lucky that the home form is so good because they probably get less complaints. If we were like circling the plug hole, then I think it'd be a different kettle of fish, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. A few comments on this. Deco said, I'm 12,000th on the waiting list for a season ticket, been on the list for 3 years. Totally understand people buying the Terrace View option. What else have we got? For lads like me up in Scotland, I'll take any ticket I can and I'll pay a lot extra for it, says Gaza. Ken says his niece works there. Definitely need more staff. CC said, I agree. The real issue is that they built the terrace for people that can afford it and not treating the rest of the fans in hospitality, which is exactly what we said. There's nothing wrong with having, additional kind of upgrades for people, but like just make the standard service better as well. As you've pointed out, West Ham is good, Tottenham's great. There's other grounds that have that. Brentford, I think, was really nice, the way that you got served at Brentford.
Rich, let's not forget that we went to Leicester away last season and there was no food at all because the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That
was a one-off, I'm sure. Going down with the Wi-Fi is still one of my favourite chants.
Yeah. A proper bar manager. Yeah. Stephen said, I work in kitchens. The younger guys need telling all the time to move. He thinks it's a generation thing.
It is.
Yeah. And working as a team, as we've said. CC, I agree. Villa have inadvertently created a 2-tier system of hospitality by just creating the terrace for those that can afford and not doing anything to improve the hospitality issues for the rest.
Yeah,
I think that's a great way of putting it. Any more questions from anyone? Let's just have a look. Willie said, being a Villa fan north of the border, just to remind Villa fans, if they're coming up early for the Hibs game, Edinburgh is busy with the Edinburgh Festival on. There you go.
Chance would be a fine thing to get a ticket.
Yeah. The final thing I wanted to cover was this bizarre incident with Leon Bailey. B. Douglas has said, what's up with the Leon Bailey assault situation? And I know in the WhatsApp groups we were kind of wondering where you were around 4:30 on Saturday and Sunday afternoon, but
wasn't me.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. Do you? I think Moore's come out like he's obviously got a young child and his wife or girlfriend is pregnant as well. So, reading between the lines, maybe someone's got a bit too close, or, I know I'd be really protective of my missus if she was walking through and she's pregnant and that kind of stuff. So, hopefully, it's just a bit of a kind of misunderstanding, bit of a storm in a teacup situation.
Well, I think without the context and details, it's just impossible to say, because you can look at it from whatever lens you want to look at it through and say maybe Bailey overreacted and was rude. Maybe this person was rude to Bailey and was a bit forceful, and everything in between. Maybe it was genuinely assault by Bailey and he's gone too far, or maybe it was 2023 assault.
I mean, to be honest, yeah. We'd like him to do some of that on the football pitch, if I'm honest.
I know,
particularly away from Villa Park.
I don't know whether Bailey is genuinely like done something wrong, whether this other person's, laying it on thick or anywhere in between. It might be terrible by Bailey. It might be someone's, had a real minor incident and they've put a complaint against one of our players, which is, potentially not a good look. But we don't know. Bailey might have done something wrong. So I think until the police have looked into it, then.
It's just always, I don't know, it's just always kind of assault and all these kind of words. It just, I don't know. It just, I shake my head sometimes. I think a couple of signed shirts and a signed football and all that, and I'm and a picture opportunity. Yeah. I think all will be forgiven. Let's hope so. Anyway,
like when you see a video on social media, like of an altercation, and like I know someone puts a hand out and like touches someone's chest and go, "You've assaulted me! You've assaulted me!" I'm like, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" So, and that's the thing this day and age. A lot of words get overused, and therefore, genuine situations sometimes then don't get the same coverage they deserve. So, let's see what happens. There's a lot of good at the club. Let's hope, as you say, maybe a tour of Bodymore Heath, a signed shirt, photo opportunity. Bailey goes around his house and plays football in the garden with his kid. All is forgiven, hopefully.
Yeah. People saying it's on CCTV, so they'll find it. Just before we do finish, I did want to cover a little bit on this injury time and then the amount of kind of yellow and red cards that are potentially being dished out. 18 minutes was added on Sunday, and I'm sure there was no player on that pitch in that second half of injury time that wanted that amount of time. Like Everton couldn't wait to get off the pitch. Villa had the game won. Like I said, there's numerous red cards and yellow cards being given. Is this just an over kind of exuberant referee and kind of PGMOL at the start of the season wanted to stamp their authority, or are we is this kind of how we're prepared for the rest of this season? Because I don't think it's having the desired impact that they wanted to. I actually think it's having the opposite impact, and these players are actually getting more injury prone off the back of this.
It's a real difficult one because the principle of actually playing the game, the amount of time the game's supposed to be played for, rather than having all these stoppages. I get it entirely. Like you want to get value for money, but they're obviously letting a bit more go, aren't they? So a few more challenges that would have been seen as fouls have been let go, which obviously helps, but they're giving yellow cards for nothing. I mean, even like just sometimes talking to the ref. I mean, obviously Luiz got a yellow card against Newcastle early on. He was on a tightrope the whole of the game. He got a yellow card early against Everton, first 20 minutes maybe. And if you think about what happened, there was 120 minutes pretty much, because even the 9 minutes injury time went on a bit longer. He's got 100 minutes of Premier League football playing a defensive midfield role where he can't make a single error. 100 minutes, 1 hour and 40 minutes for those who don't know how hours and minutes work. That's really difficult for a player like that to not miss time a tackle, and then you're off. I mean, apparently tonight, obviously Arsenal have had a red card for a couple of yellows apparently, and you are right. If all of a sudden you extend everything by 20 minutes, there's more. But just by just ratios, it's just mathematics. There's more opportunity to get more yellow cards, and I do wonder sometimes whether that will mean that, like happened with maybe the Villa game was different because we were 3 up, whatever, early on. But maybe games will peter out a bit more into almost a pre-season vibe. If there's just, if the result maybe is done, because to exert yourself, you're going to have more chance of injury. You're going to get more chance of being booked or sent off. And is it worth it?
Yeah. I know also someone's put there, like, a night game on a Tuesday night or whatever, and you've got to travel from wherever, and you've got to get the train back, and they're adding another 10 minutes on at the end of the game. You're going to miss your train. So you're not getting the value for money anyway, because you loads of times they cancel the trains after a certain time, mate, and you're not going to get home anyway.
You just made a brilliant point because West Midlands trains, obviously, and Aston Villa seem to get on about as well as Prince Harry and Prince William. It's just crazy. I mean, I remember when I drive in now with my lad, but I remember when I used to get the train in. I understand all of this. Oh, let's use public transport because of the environment. Try getting away from Villa Park and think that's a good idea. Amount of times when I didn't have my lad, I used to walk back to Birmingham city centre. Talking like 2-3 miles, whatever. And sometimes that was late at night because I couldn't get a bloody train. I couldn't get an Uber. So you think about that point, if there's a train due to go and you need to get it, and then you've had an extra 20 minutes, are the bosses at the train company thinking, I know what we'll do? We'll put an extra train on. I don't know how easy that is. Or we'll change the time of the train. No, they're not. So it could really affect people getting home, or at least getting to where they need to be. I don't know. It's a real tricky one. I just think sometimes, there's got to be a bit more common sense. And I think maybe more common sense I think the thing that can make it a bit easy, the whole situation, is not giving out so many needless yellows. Because even if the captain is just trying to question something and they're getting a yellow, I mean, cut out dissent, I totally get it. And, showing an imaginary yellow card, absolutely, you're in the book for that. And, but yeah, I just think it's just a bit unbalanced at the moment, the whole thing. And I think there's going to be more situations. I was thinking there'd be more red cards this weekend. I think we're going to have, if it doesn't change soon, there'll be some weekends when I think there'll be loads of red cards, and then maybe something will happen.
Yeah, and they do tend to do this at the start of the season. The referees get quite overzealous and want to do that and stamp it down. And CC said, to be fair, if it was that many minutes because of injury treatment, love the new changes, no more time wasting surrounding the ref, calling for cards. Eventually it will calm down. And I do agree with quite a lot of that. I just think I think adding the time on for the deliberate kind of time wasting is fine. I think sometimes then there has been a bad injury, maybe they have like a nominal amount that they add on, just because, it's going to get, I just think it's going to get stupid, especially if they're doing all of that as well, but hopefully it will calm down, just because, just because of that, the way that the season's starting, and people, they do want to kind of stamp their authority, and hopefully players will just get used to how it is. I didn't see any kind of play acting and going down. That's the point. I didn't see that much. I just saw players getting injured. And that's the problem, I think. Because if it's 1-1 and the team's really going to go for it, they really are going to go for it, especially if they've got 9 or 10 minutes injury time to go at it. So I don't know.
We also get a massive boost, don't you? Like prior to this season, if there was like 4 or 5 minutes, the crowd would go, "Oh, come on!" There's like, the fourth official has indicated there'll be an additional 14 minutes. You're like, crikey, we've got a real chance here. We've got a third of a half extra to score. So yeah, but I do think you'll get a situation where toward the end of the season, maybe a team's got a big cup game or an important league game, where games also might peter out, and you might be sat watching it. I mean, Villa, last 20 minutes of the Villa game was fairly drab. Really, not much happened once that 4th goal went in. And if you had somewhere to be, or it was an 8 o'clock kickoff, then I think you might be a bit like, come on, now get on with it. I don't really like. I never leave early, ever.
Yeah, no. Normally, I've even stayed at St James's Park when we were 5-1 down. So, yeah. I think that.
Can we leave early now?
Yeah. Let's just jump out. Yeah. But I think that probably does us, mate. We did say we didn't want to do a full long show, but hour and 23 minutes in, so many comments which are fantastic, and we love these fans forum type shows where we kind of go through any questions that you guys have got, anything that you want to chat about. So it's brilliant to get involved, but we've got now we're really kicking into the season. Now we're kicking into the Europa Conference League. Fingers crossed that we get through that group stage against Hibs. But we've got lots and lots of shows lined up for you. So do make sure you stay tuned. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button to help us grow the channel. Like I said before, we're on the road to 3K, so you guys can really help us to push on to bigger and better things. But we will be doing a match preview for Hibs over hopefully tomorrow. I've got Gareth lined up, ready and waiting for the Talking Tactics show, which actually last week I think we got over 5,000 views on that show. So that show is just growing and growing and growing. Wow, so make sure you check that one out after a victory as well against Everton 4-0. It's one not to be missed. We'll obviously be doing a match reaction show to Hibs. We'll be doing a preview for Burnley. So, and any transfer talk shows that we want to do. So do stay tuned to the channel. But thank you so much for your comments, guys. Thank you for getting involved in the show. It's going to be a massive week for Villa. Hopefully we get through we'll get into a great start in the Conference League. And as always, though, please remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.
All right.